Happy Thursday, y'all. It is July 3rd, the day before Independence Day, and we are back, but with a pre-recorded version of Biscuits with
Ooh.
Bosses. I know what up. Now this is the podcast where we get to know leaders in the film and television industry over a spot of tea. Although today she's just having some water.
Same.
What else?
Ice water for
Right?
the win.
Yes, water. You know, for those of you who are watching, feel free to have something fancier. We want to hear about it in the comments.
I hope you're having
Um,
some real tea in lieu of what we're drinking today.
right? Get fancy. Um, Now we like to unpack it a little bit more, over our cup of tea and really dig deep about what can we do as leaders in the industry to elevate the future of filmmaking? Because much like our namesake, Ted Lasso, we as leaders believe that we have the power to influence the lives of others. So here we are, like having a bit of fun while also trying to implement a little change. Um, with me, as always, my co-host with the mostest, my Ed McMahon, Matt York. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Hello. I love being here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Excited that you're here. Now, usually we have a special guest join us, but since today is part of a holiday weekend, we thought we'd do a little recap episode and see all the guests from our past as a little tease for our guests in the future. Now, I want to start by saying a special shout out to our sponsor for today, Story Math Online Workshop, which has a summer intensive series. So if you're trying to go from your concept to outline in a single day, Story Math is the way. Sign up for your online workshop through Eventbrite. If you sign up early, there's a 20% discount, but make sure you sign up soon because there's limited seating. Want to learn about these events ahead of time? Maybe even get a bigger discount? Make sure you sign up for the Story Math newsletter. Link is down below. And I think you'll like the host. She's pretty cool. I think I can speak from experience. Matt, did you have any tea time favorites, whether a favorite mug or a favorite drink?
One that stood out to me was Enrico Natale's, honestly. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he just had like the coolest one. I mean, they all had like cool mugs and such, but his was so far has been the most unique and been at least I think has had the coolest story with it so far. The most adorable story, I should say.
Right? Check out Enrico's adorable little mug that he brought to the Biscuits with Bosses. Although no tea, only coffee.
Enrico, do you have anything to drink today?
Oh man, so I have to go to my go-to, which is coffee, but coffee with like just a crazy amount, and then obviously I have to have my
Nice.
Pikachu mug.
Nice.
Not for my child who's obsessed with Pokemon, but it was just too cool of a mug for me not to use,
Yeah.
and so I have to take it. He drinks milk out of it, so I was like, "Come on, you got to drink coffee out of this." Mm,
I love how this is actually a shared mug, right? It's not just yours,
yeah.
it's also your child. I love that it's normally his child that drinks out of it. And of course, it's milk instead of coffee. So it's like he needed his kid's coolness to level up just for our program.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was honestly really nice how he like was kind of bringing his family into it. I feel like we've just watched a lot of um, you know, great people do their stuff, but his I think, and I totally could be wrong here, was the only one that was like, well, this is the family mug, or this is like, this is the one that other people use. I don't know. We haven't had a whole lot of people talk about their families yet on the show, I feel like.
Yeah, that is very true. But I think if part of what we're trying to mimic as part of Biscuits with Bosses is this is what networking in the industry actually looks like, and it is just making friends and getting to know each other. Then yeah, I love it when people mention those little golden nuggets, those little nuances of their lives.
Yeah,
It's so cute.
absolutely. I love those little things.
Total
So,
aside, I had lunch with a friend the other day, and I had worked with this dude for almost 2 years and never knew he was into gardening until that lunch when we actually had
wow.
time to like sit and chat. And I was like, oh, fellow plant parent.
Yeah.
Um, so it just goes to show you can always learn new things about people, even if, you've known them for a while. So, get curious. Speaking of which, I kind of love that little segment about actually curious because it really did bring up some really interesting, like reflections from people.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Stephanie's reflection? That was
I
so
was just
fun.
thinking that. I was like, probably the funnest one was the Stephanie's one. Because I mean, they just had good taste in music from what it sounded like. But um, no, that one was good because I felt like we've talked about like concerts and stuff, and we've had a lot of people talk about their favorite like one-off bands or which has been fun, but they were just going about like a bunch of different people and I was like, oh, I know those guys and I know those guys and oh, that's a funny story and like they have Pink as their ringtone for one of them. I thought that was just really funny. I thought that was great.
I mean, clearly this means we have to reinstitute the Ted Lasso classic first concert, best concert, because we
Yeah,
started with it, but we didn't always use it. But once it came back around naturally through Actually Curious, like, y'all, we
it
just
was
gotta,
good.
right? So fun. I think I felt the same way when I heard Raven's response, actually, because she not just went into such great detail about the
Mm,
experience, um, but also why it was so impactful for her, because for her, well, you'll see. Why do I have to explain it? Just watch.
yeah.
First concert was, I think, was the Scream tour. Like back when I was a teenager, and it was like when Bow Wow was still Lil Bow Wow and B2K and like that whole scene. That was my first concert. Um, Best concert was not surprisingly, but when I took my mom, I think for Mother's Day to see New Edition.
Oh,
And it was such a great concert for a number of reasons, but they obviously didn't need any openers because there are so many subgroups and solo acts that came out of that group that they were kind of their own openers. And but they put on such a great show, and I love community just as a person, and I love diverse communities. So when I was there was such a huge range of people, like age range specifically of people, because you had people who were listening to New Edition at 12 to 15 years old, and then you had people who were listening to New Edition when they were 25, 30. So, and they were all there. Of course, my mom and I were both there, so that was a broad range, but that was probably the best concert. It was a really, like I said, a really good show, but just this sense of community was really sweet.
and I think that's the beautiful thing about asking what seems like really benign questions is that it actually gives the person you're listening to this kind of open platform to open up and just express who they are and show you a little bit about themselves that you didn't ask for, but is such a gift. Um, yeah.
One of my favorite thing ever is like having like a real conversation, like not just where
Yeah.
people are talking and like waiting for the other person to finish so they can talk, but like having a conversation that leads and trails and like you get to really hear s- someone's truth and you get to hear what someone's like actually trying to say instead of most recent movie you've seen, which I mean is great for this conversation. But
True.
you know, I feel like, in most circumstances, like, oh, what TV shows are you into or whatever, like it doesn't lead to anywhere. You just kind of know the same five facts about everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you intend to work with this person or possibly partner with this person, or really just, even just be in the same community and see them occasionally through community events, like sometimes you only get one chance to bond with them. I've definitely had coffee dates with people where it's just like, hey, you seem cool. Let's take an hour and get to know each other. And if the rapport is so good from that one meeting, they'll remember you and they will allow that door to stay open even if time has passed. Um,
Yeah.
so I sincerely hope that that's part of the goodwill that we are stoking for
Hmm.
others in the industry.
Absolutely. And that actually reminds me of also from the Stephanies when they were talking about how like the in order to be in a partnership or to know people in the industry, it needs to come from a place of genuineness and a place of
Mm.
realness, having those conversations with people, even when it's not work related, getting to know the people you're working with only allows for more creative collaboration in the future.
The relationships have to be true relationships. I mean, like I've known Jessica from Lyft for 9 years now, and like we've kept we've kept those relationships up. It's like with Austin Film Festival, I've known how many people at Austin Film Festival for the last 16 years, and I keep those relationships up. Even the ones that have moved on. Like there's so many people that I'm still close to because I want to get to know them. I want to know what they do. And, one of my favorite people in the world, a lot of people are scared of her, including me, Barb Morgan. I freaking love that woman, but she's scary as hell, but I love her.
She's not scary. She is extremely confident, and confident women give off a different persona. She's not scary though. I love Barb.
I do too. But like, it's one of those things that like she is one of those people that I look up to because of what she has done in the industry, how she has championed the industry, and how she has stood up for the people she loves and the nonprofit she cares about, which is she cares about AFF.
Yeah, man. Oh, such a good conversation.
Yeah.
By the way, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Stephanies, that's Stephanie Moore and Stephanie
Yes.
Harrison. They are the ladies who lead Gemini Crown Tech, and that tech company is responsible for the latest production software called Production Value. And Production Value is an all-in-one software to get you from development all the way through distribution. And I only mention that because if by chance, as an indie producer or content creator, you really need something to help keep everything in one place, but also keep you in check, right? Because sometimes you just need that little checklist that says, did I get everything? I don't know. It has not just the way to organize you, but to keep you in check and at a reduced cost. So if by chance you're looking for this, not only do I have the link for you to register, but if you enter this code, then you can get it for 10% off. I know.
Wow.
So
Wow.
exciting.
That's so cool that
which
we have our first link.
I know. Look at us, affiliates. And a hearty cheers to the Stephanies because they just became the partner or one of the sponsors for 48 Hour Film Project.
That's right.
Because, right? So cheers to them and
Cheers
Production
to them.
Value, which I'm so glad that we were able to incorporate the victory round with our Biscuits with Bosses because, again,
Yes.
sometimes it's a great way to bond, right? You're like, even if I can't be on your team, right? Like we're not working together, but I can still root for you.
Yeah.
For my victory round, not mine specifically, but my favorite, I love sometimes how when people claim what seems like a personal victory or something that was like really hard for them, and
Mhm.
then the one that everybody else is thinking is a big victory is like a shrug for them, right?
Yeah.
So when Yamara came on and she was like, oh, I kind of figured out this social media thing and I'm really proud of myself because it was kind of hard, but whatever, I just closed a deal for a pilot. I guess that's worth celebrating too, right?
Yeah.
For
That, like-
Hulu and this really big star, but whatever.
Yeah, that instant juxtaposition was crazy to me. She's like, I don't really know what a Substack is. I'm not you're gonna have to walk me through that. And oh, by the way, I'm working with Kenya over here and we're making a pilot for the show. Wow, okay. That's
Yeah.
that was funny. That was really good. And congrats to Yamara as well for that. I can't wait to see that show when it comes out.
I'm figuring out social media, and so I've been like my niece Jalen. Shout out Jalen. She won't tell me where she is on social media because she has like all these like secret accounts. She will not. She's like, because we shamed her very early in the internet. Like, we didn't know any better. She was on Twitter. We were like, what is this? The world sees you. And as a family, we handled it all wrong. And now she was like, y'all will never see me online. Never. But she's been helping me. My daughter Reagan has been helping me on TikTok. And I made like a couple of videos. And I'll say that's a victory.
Yeah.
And I closed a deal.
What? You know, no big deal. Just closing a deal.
I
Girl,
know.
that's like 3 victories in one. Let's.
Cheers, I
right?
totally forgot. I
Cheers.
closed the deal. Thank you.
Wait, so are you allowed to talk about the deal at all?
I think so. Yeah. Well, it's a pilot deal with Hulu that for a show I'm going called London Boys in the Hood with my friend Samson Ko. He is a Nigerian British man. He's in Formula One. Go see it.
Yes.
Does fancy stuff. He's very funny. He did a bunch of sketch comedy. He has like a BAFTA. And he's like so great. And so we're writing a show together just about his him coming to LA to be an actor and make all his dreams come true, which is what he did. And also he's best friends with like all these super like famous people already, like Michaela Cole and Damson Idris and Daniel Kaluuya. They're like,
Wow.
it just makes me laugh so much when I don't know. I just think it's funny when I ask someone like, oh, and then who do you know out here? And he's like, lists all these people. I'm like, oh my God, you're fine. All your best friends you're fine. But he came up with all these. So it's cool. Like, so we're going to write that together. I'm really excited.
You know, and look, here's the deal when it comes to industry stuff and celebrating stuff. That pilot is in like its infancy, which means there are so many other chapters where it could die. And wow, that comparison was terrible. I'm not saying that all infants die. I'm just saying it's vulnerable when it's young. Okay, so it's possible that it won't go past the pilot, right? Because that happens all the time with pilots.
Sure.
It's possible it won't go past the first season or the first 2 seasons. Rest in peace, Winning Time, which I still can't believe that Tabitha McDonald was like, I'm obsessed with Winning Time. I'm like, girl, yes.
Yeah.
Except that it broke my heart because it ended too early. # writer's strike. Sorry, just tangent. But I say that to say, even if I never get to see the series or the pilot, I still know that I have to celebrate those wins because as creatives, we have to. Because if we can only celebrate it once other people can celebrate it, we may wait way too long to actually get wind in our sails to keep going. So, you know, cheers to Yamara, regardless of where that pilot goes. That's all
Absolutely.
I'm saying.
I mean, just getting it there, getting to that stage is victory enough. I mean, I'm not in the industry personally, but I can only imagine the work and the lengths you got to go to just to get it seen, just to get someone to go, okay, I'll give you the 10 minutes to look at this. And so, in my mind, making it past that stage to, oh, well, we're actually gonna kind of invest in you, and we're going to give you this crew and give you these people, and you better have a thing that is good. Like, that's not everyone gets to that point either.
Yeah, that is for
so
sure.
yeah, that's a great victory from her as well.
Right? I will say, and I'm pulling from memory because I remember one of the first guests we had was Midian Crosby, one of my dear friends, an amazing special effects makeup artist, just kicking butt on little projects, things you've probably never heard of, like Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy. Just, nothing projects.
Indie projects.
Yeah, truly indie. I love seeing her shine, by the way. But I really love seeing her really get passionate about being there for other creatives. Whether that's a victory round or it's teaching or it's really just saying, hey, y'all, wake up. This is how we need to be running the industry so that the next, generation of masters can come in and build on what we've started.
I specifically want to help filmmakers too, independent filmmakers, understand the process of makeup and makeup effects and special effects and what it costs and how long it takes. I was talking to a filmmaker yesterday and he was like, hey, I'd really like to, have this umbrella go into this person's eye and then like stay there. And I was like, okay, well, this is not something we can just do on the day for no money because, if you want the umbrella to stay in the eye, that's a rig to keep it from moving. And having people kind of understand what it takes to do an effect and how they can re-storyboard or rethink about like how they want to see it in order to fit with their budget, because everybody says like how much is it going to cost, and like that is tricky fucking question.
Okay, but clearly, other than having a bit of tea and celebrating a couple of victories, there are some, I think, insights. I think there are some discoveries that we all made as we're kind of discussing each other's processes, but also like our approach, right?
Mhm.
I was curious if anything really stood out to you from those discussions.
Yeah. The biggest one for me was probably from Tabitha McDonald, and she
Mm.
was talking about just allowing yourself grace and allowing grace for your crew, and such, and you know, like holding yourself accountable, but understanding that things happen and everyone's working their best. You don't get to this level and you don't get to this industry without putting your best foot forward for stuff. And so, like trusting your crew, but also just allowing some grace with it and realizing that, we're all kind of putting it together. And then, from that is the gratitude that you get from that of like, okay, well, we're kind of doing a thing. We're making this happen. We're recording this or we're editing that or and I felt as she was explaining it, it was like kind of the cogs were turning in my head of like, oh yeah, that that makes sense. That's a self-serving thing. Okay, cool. I can, yeah. Like um
Yeah.
yeah, hers really stuck out to me. How about you?
You know, hers did stick out. I felt like the other part of that grace was gratitude. And I thought it was
Hmm.
so funny that she was like, so at the beginning of set, when we do our
Right.
safety
Yeah,
meetings,
yeah, yeah.
we actually take the time at that time to express the gratitude. And what a interesting shift, because usually we wait till the end of the day for gratitude. And then it just feels like a balm on a wound. Whereas if you
Right.
start with gratitude, how much higher does it lift you?
Yeah.
Um, what a wild idea, right?
But like it
Um,
totally makes sense. Like once you like say it out loud, like, oh yeah, if we start the day on a good note, it kind of gets better versus if we just kind of tack this band-aid on at the end of the day. And it's like, man, every studio should be doing this. Every set should be doing this. Like that just makes
yeah.
sense to me.
I mean, one should also argue that maybe we should have tea time on every set, but that may be too much of
Oh,
a
there you
stretch.
go.
UK sets only, but we can infuse a little bit in if we need to.
Very strongly tied to my values is like having compassion and having grace for people with where they're at. Like I think that's a big piece of what I'm striving for as far as like what I'm putting out into the world, but also like if we're going to be in this industry in a sustainable way, like you kind of have to give yourself grace and give other people grace. And so that's a big one that's like on my mind a lot lately.
And you mentioned accountability as the other part of that grace. I really thought Enrico's note about
Mm,
accountability, it may feel opposite from Tabitha, but I think it's just if there's a soft version of accountability, which is kind of grace, then there's a harder version of accountability, which is, I think, what Enrico was talking about, which is like If you have a deadline, honor the deadline. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who sets the deadline because it's a deadline, right?
Yeah.
If you say you're going to deliver, it doesn't matter who you're delivering to, deliver. And I think both of those versions can exist in the same place at the same time. But it was just so awesome to hear him say it because um, because I think that's how we make room for both,
Right.
right?
No, absolutely. He I think was like what he said was the other side of the coin to what Tabitha said, because they were both talking about accountability, but while she was like, understand everyone's working their hardest, so therefore you should have grace for when stuff happens, his side of the coin was like, you got to be working your hardest in order to make sure that everyone is doing their stuff, you know?
It's the advice I say all the time is like hold yourself accountable. You know, if you want to be if you want to move forward in this industry, which is really hard. It's a hard industry, and that's not to make people to make you feel like you can't do it, but it's a lot of time and commitment. There's a lot of incredibly talented people that are doing it right now, and I guarantee you they hold themselves accountable. They hold themselves accountable for their work, for their actions, for their whatever they commit to, they do it. And I think it's so incredibly important to put that on you, because this industry is unlike any other industry in the world.
Part of what I hope people take from these little insights is that regardless of where your community is, regardless of what your wheelhouse is, regardless of what your commitments are, I hope you can still take ownership of that, because you do set the tone, right? You can be welcoming, or you can be, harsh. You can be inclusive or exclusive. You could be, you can help to build and level up by honoring these commitments and being accountable, or you can let things slide. So, even though we're doing this program with a spot of tea and having a good laugh, like the other end of that is also like, how can we continue to show up and get better at the game, get better at the business, and really just keep being good people while we do it, because that's no compromise.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And speaking of learning from this podcast, I just have to give a final shout out to our most recent guest, Yamara, who very eloquently put it as advice to up and coming and current professionals: always be learning, right? Be
Mhm.
open to that experience.
I hope that my career changes or at least contributes to is continuing that learning flow, that I want to be in rooms and I want to run rooms where we all understand that it doesn't matter what level I'm at, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And everybody in that room is learning. We're all on a journey. And so whatever this show is going to teach us, like we're on the journey together, we're figuring it out, and that has to be okay.
I hope part of what we're doing here on Biscuits with Bosses is giving ourselves and giving others permission to just make space for growth, whether that's personal growth or professional growth. We're just carving out a little time every week, where we can sit and, you know, make that happen. So I hope you guys have a chance to do that for yourselves. Since we are not here live with you right now and able to listen to your victories and respond, I still very much hope that you're actually leaving in the comments what your victories are, because when we come back, we can still respond and we would love to help you celebrate your victories. But along those lines, if you are also in the industry and you have any questions about the future of filmmaking, leave us a comment or a question below, because we want to continue that conversation. So yeah, thanks for chiming in, and I guess we'll see you next week.
See you next week, everyone, live.
Live! We'll make it live!
We'll be back, everyone. I hope everyone has a great and safe Independence